Section 25 of Birds and Nature, Volume 11, Number 4, April 1902, recorded for LibriVox.org by Kitty Bagby. Calamus, Acorus calamus, L. Another goblet, quick and stir, pomegranate juice and drops of myrrh, and calamus therein. Longfellow, Golden Legend, 3. Acorus calamus, commonly known as calamus, sweet flag, and cinnamon sedge, is a reed-like plant common in Europe and northern United States. It grows in swamps, marshes, and very moist places. It is herbaceous, perennial, growing from spreading fleshy rhizomes. The long, sword-like, deep green, pointed leaves grow up from the rhizomes. The history of this plant dates back to remote antiquity. Yet there is considerable uncertainty as regards the identity of the various plants which have at various periods been supposed to be sweet flag. There is no doubt that some reed-like plant, in many respects similar if not identical with calamus, was used by the ancient Egyptians in the preparation of incense, as recorded in the papyri of Ebers. These Egyptian records date back to the 18th dynasty, or from 1800 to 2000 years BC. Vague references to a similar plant are to be found in the ancient sacred writings of the Hindus. It is likely that the plant referred to, and that which is mentioned in the Bible, is a species of Andropogon and not Acorus. In Exodus chapter 30, verse 23, we find, "Take thou also unto thee principal spices of pure myrrh, of sweet cinnamon, and of sweet calamus." Our first reliable information of calamus is from Plinius, who received specimens from the country about the Black Sea and who described it under the name of Acorus calamus. Acorus, derived from the Greek a, for, and chorus, the eye, because the plant was highly recommended in the treatment of diseases of the eye. Calamus, also derived from the Greek, means a reed or reed-like plant. Dioscorides and Theophrastus also describe the plant with special reference to the rhizome and its uses. The rhizome should be collected late in the autumn, carefully cleaned of dirt, leaf remnants, leaf scales, and roots, and dried in the sun, or in an oven at a moderate temperature. The aromatic odor increases greatly on drying. Calamus has ever been a favorite popular remedy. Its principal use seems to have been that of a tonic and blood purifier, for which purpose bits of the dried rhizomes are masticated and the saliva swallowed. It undoubtedly is a tonic, and it also has a beneficial, stimulating, and antiseptic effect upon gums and teeth. Chewing the rhizomes is also said to clear the voice. Calamus is, or has been, used in flavoring gin and beer. Country, people add it to whiskey, wine, and brandy to make a tonic bitters for the weak and dyspeptic. It is said that the Turks employ it as a preventative against contagious diseases. In India, it is used to destroy vermin, especially fleas. In England, it is employed in the treatment of malaria. At the present time, calamus is no longer extensively employed in medicine. It is considered as a stimulating, aromatic, and bitter tonic. It is perhaps true that its value as a tonic is at present somewhat underestimated by the medical profession. It is also serviceable in flatulent colic, and in what is designated as atonic dyspepsia. It is added to other medicines, either as a corrective or adjuvant. Albert Schneider. End of section 25. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 26 of Birds and Nature, Volume 11, Number 4, April 1902. Recorded for LibriVox.org by Tavarish. The Birds. They are swaying in the marshes, they are swinging in the glen, where the cattails air their brushes in the zephyrs of the fen. In the swamp's deserted tangle, where the reed grass whets its scythes, in the dismal creepy quagmire, where the snake-gourd twists and writhes. They are singing in arroyos, where the cactus mails its breast, where the Spanish bayonet glistens in the steep bank's rocky crest, in the canyon where the cascade sets its pearls in maiden hair, where the hay and holly beckon valley sun and mountain air. They are nesting in the elbow of the scrub oak's knotty arm, in the grey mesh of the sagebrush, in the wheat fields of the farm, in the banks along the sea beach, in the vine above my door, in the outstretched clumsy fingers of the mottled sycamore. While the church bell rings its discourse, they are sitting on the spires. Song and anthem, psalm and carol, quaver as from mystic lyres. Everywhere they flirt and flutter, mate and nest in shrub and tree. Charmed I wander yon and hither, while their beauties ravish me, till my musings sing like thrushes, and my heart is like a nest softly lined with tender fancies, plucked from nature's mother breast. Elizabeth Grinnell, in Birds of Song and Story. End of section 26. This recording is in the public domain. End of Birds and Nature, Volume 11, Number 4, April 1902.
Section 7 of Birds and Nature, Volume 11, Number 4, April 1902. Recorded for LibriVox.org by Betty B. The Western Pine Squirrel. Many peculiar things have been written about the red squirrel, or what is called out west the pine squirrel. These frisky little animals are found in great numbers throughout eastern Washington. The northern part of eastern Washington abounds in pine forests, and those regions are a favorite abode for the squirrel. Next to the large silver fox squirrel and the diminutive chipmunk, the pine squirrel is the most handsome, graceful, and interesting member of that numerous family found in the Northwest. He is a bright, sprightly little fellow. During the long, bright, sunny days of spring, summer, and autumn, the pine squirrel makes his home out of doors. His life seems to be one of perpetual sunshine and pleasure. From early dawn to dusk, the pine squirrel is on the move. He is never still for an instant. You see him scampering up and down the great trunk of a pine, fir, or tamarack. Next, he is out on the tip end of a long, swaying branch. Then he is on the ground. The next instant he is running along the body of some prostrate tree. He is full of curiosity. If you stand and watch him, he will return the compliment with interest. If you are perfectly still, the little chap will venture close and eye you very sharply. He is as quick as a flash, and if you chance to move, away he darts, uttering his peculiar, sharp, chattering call. Rarely will you see him without something in his mouth. He is very dainty, however, as to what he eats. For all that he lives in the trees and on the ground, yet the pine squirrel has a permanent home. When chilling frosts visit the earth and the snow softly descends, the little fellow whisks away to his hole. However, he does not hibernate like the bear. Not he. Often during the winter the squirrel will come out and take a view of the upper world. But this he does only when the weather is fine. He never shows himself when it is bitter cold and when storms prevail. The pine squirrel leads no butterfly existence. He has the prudent forethought of the ant. He enjoys life and sports in the sunshine, but all the while he is carefully storing away a good supply of food to tide him over the winter. His home is generally well selected, and his bed is soft and warm. He knows what comfort means. However, this squirrel has some queer ways. In some parts of northeastern Washington there are a great many mushrooms and toadstools. The pine squirrel will spend days in gathering these peculiar growths and carrying them away, but not to his hole. He will carry some of them high up into trees and place them in the forks of branches where the wind cannot shake them out. Hundreds and thousands of these fungi will be placed in the forks of tall saplings, bushes, shrubs, and even weeds. Some of the toadstools are larger than the squirrel himself, but, like the ant, he will keep tugging away, and finally the little fellow will land them where he wishes to have them placed. So far as known, the squirrel never eats the fungi. He does not take any to his hole, and after placing the toadstools in the brush, he does not disturb them again. The fungi dries away and may be seen for several years. What instinct prompts the little creature to do this is a mystery. I have never yet found any naturalist, trapper, hunter, or frontiersman who could give a satisfactory explanation of the matter. The wood rat and magpie will steal every imaginable article about a house, carry it away, and secrete it. Most of these articles cannot be eaten, and are of no possible use to the rat or bird. Perhaps the pine squirrel is prompted by a similar instinct. The western pine squirrel is a perfectly harmless and peaceable animal. He is not known to attack any other animal except the weasel, and then only in self-defense. J. Maine, Baltimore. End of section 7. This recording is in the public domain. Section 14 of Birds and Nature, Volume 11, Number 4, April 1902. Read for LibriVox.org by Betty B. The Red-backed Sandpiper, Tringa alpina pacifica. The sandpipers trip on the glassy beach, ready to mount and fly. Whenever a ripple reaches their feet, they rise with a timorous cry. Duncan Campbell Scott, Sandpipers. Very early in the spring, the red-backed sandpiper leaves its winter home in the States and countries bordering the Gulf of Mexico and starts on its long journey to the cooler region of the far north. It arrives in Alaska early in May, in full breeding plumage, and the males are soon engaged in prettily wooing the coy females. Mr. Nelson, who had unexcelled opportunities for studying the habits of these interesting sandpipers, well describes their courting habits. He says, "The males may be seen upon quivering wings, flying after the female and uttering a musical trilling note, which falls upon the ear like the mellow tinkle of large water drops falling rapidly into a partly filled vessel. Imagine the sounds thus produced by the water run together into a steady and rapid trill some 5 or 10 seconds in length, and the note of this sandpiper is represented. It is not loud, but has a rich, full tone, difficult to describe, but pleasant to hear. As the lover's suit approaches its end, the handsome suitor becomes exalted, and in his moments of excitement he rises 15 or 20 yards, and hovering on tremulous wings over the object of his passion, pours forth a perfect gush of music, until he glides back to earth exhausted, but ready to repeat the effort a few minutes later. The female coyly retreats before the advance of the male, but after various mishaps each bird finds its partner for the summer, and they start off house hunting in all the ardor of a rising honeymoon. The red-backed sandpiper is not a bird architect, and it does not build even a simple home. A slight hollow on a dry knoll, which commands a clear view of some body of water, is the site usually selected. Here the eggs are laid, either upon the dry grass already in the hollow, or upon a few bits of leaves, twigs, and grass hastily gathered and placed without order. After the appearance of the eggs, the male seems to realize the responsibility of family cares, for his merry song ceases, and he devotes his share of time to sitting on the nest, protecting the eggs with his warm body. That this is the case is shown by the bare patches that appear on his breast at this season. With such a home as is prepared for their reception, it is not surprising that the little redbacks leave the nest as soon as they are hatched and freely run about. When frightened, they readily conceal themselves by sitting on the ground and remaining quiet. This species exhibits considerable variation in the color of its plumage. In the spring and summer it may be known by the black patch on the belly and reddish color of its back, which is mottled with white and black. At this season it is often called black breast. In the fall and winter the upper parts are brownish gray in color and the under parts are whitish. It is then frequently called the leadback. The redback is not as active as the other sandpipers, and its unsuspicious nature makes it seem quite stupid. Though a beach bird, it is not infrequently met in grassy marshes, and by some it is called the grass bird. End of section 14. This recording is in the public domain. Section 24 of Birds and Nature, Volume 11, Number 4, April 1902. Read for LibriVox.org by Betty B. Antics of a Hummingbird. As the writer was standing one May morning near a clump of bushes in the suburbs of a city in Maine, he witnessed, for the first time in a long experience of bird study, the courting antics of a male hummingbird. Two of the tiny creatures appeared, apparently evolved from mid-air, and one alighted in the bush. She was the female. The male immediately began to disport himself in the air in the following remarkable manner. He dashed back and forth over the head of the female in long curving swoops, such as one describes in a swing, all the time giving utterance to a low, pleasing twitter. He thus swept back and forth 10 times, rising at the ends of the curve to a height of perhaps 15 feet, sustaining himself there a moment with his ruby throat flashing in the sun, and then darting down the double toboggan slide and up to the other end. Though he flew very swiftly, yet his speed was not the usual flash, and his movements could be plainly seen. I have never before seen a hummingbird fly so slowly, nor heard from one of them such a prolonged vocal sound. Indeed, it is very rare that one hears the hummingbird's voice, even if one is on the alert for it. After the 10th swoop there was a buzz of wings, and both birds had vanished. A minute after I found the male in a cherry tree, sipping honey from the blossoms. There is evidently a rivalry between the bees and the hummingbirds in their quest for honey. This bird, with an angry dash, expressed its disapproval of the presence of a big bumblebee in the same tree. The usually pugnacious bee incontinently fled, but he did not leave the tree. He dashed back and forth among the branches and white blossoms, the hummingbird in close pursuit. Where will you find another pair that could dodge and turn and dart equal to these? They were like flashes of light, yet the pursuer followed in the track of the pursued, turning when the bee turned. There was no cutting across, for there was no time for that. In short, the bird and the bee controlled the movement of their bodies more quickly and more accurately than the writer could control the movement of his eyes. The chase was all over in half the time it has taken to tell it, but the excitement of a pack of hounds after a fox is as nothing in comparison. The bee escaped, the bird giving up the chase and alighting on a twig. It couldn't have been chasing the bee for food, and there is no possible explanation of its unprovoked attack, except that it wished to have all the honey itself. So even as little a body as a hummingbird can show selfishness in a marked degree. However, Mr. Bee continued to take his share of nature's bounty, though doubtless he had his weather eye open against another attack. Both scenes afforded me a delightful study, and were a rare privilege. George Bancroft Griffith. End of section 24. This recording is in the public domain.